The jet's engines hum steady as Damien walks across the tarmac, each step a quiet beat against the cracked pavement. The air's thick with jet fuel and the salty tang of the ocean, just a mile west, where the Pacific churns gray under the dawn light. Beyond the runway, the 405 freeway grumbles as LA wakes up. Damien's flown this route, LA to Chicago, countless times, a 3-hour hop as familiar as his morning coffee. But today's different. It's the final piece of a $400 million deal, his company, Cole Ventures, sealing a logistics partnership out of O'Hare. The client's on edge. Damien got a text at 4 a.m. Board's wavering. Be here by 10 a.m. or they're pulling out. It's 6:30 now. He's cutting it close, but this jet's his quiet space to think, and he's 10 steps from boarding when a voice cuts through. "Excuse me, sir." Barlow steps out from Hangar 9, early 50s, broad-shouldered, sunglasses perched high like he's auditioning for a cop drama. His uniform's stiff, name tag reading Barlow J, and his tone's sharp, demanding compliance. "This jet's private. I need to see ID now." Damien stops mid-stride, one loafer settling softly on the concrete. He turns slowly, eyes locking onto Barlow's shades, a thin smile flickering across his face. Not warm, not cold, just a shadow of something tired. He's been here before, the same old script, a quick judgment, a barrier thrown up, a question that's less about policy and more about who he is, or who Barlow assumes he isn't. As a black man who's built his success from the ground up, Damien knows this dance, the subtle sting of being sized up and found wanting before he even opens his mouth. He stands there, hands loose, the morning light catching his watch as he takes in Barlow's stance. Rigid, unyielding. Barlow doesn't budge, his shades reflecting Damien's silhouette against the jet's black hull. The tarmac's empty around them, just the jet's hum, a fuel truck rattling past Hangar 8 and a gull crying overhead. A breeze tugs at Barlow's uniform, but he stands firm, waiting for Damien to crack. "Sir," Barlow snaps, impatience creeping in, "I need to verify your identity." "No exceptions, policy." Damien tilts his head slightly, not in defiance but in a quiet assessment. His voice comes out low, steady. "I'm Damien Cole. I'm flying this jet to Chicago." Barlow's brow shoots up, a dry chuckle escaping him. "Oh yeah? And I'm Jeff Bezos." The sarcasm lands sharp, but Damien doesn't flinch. His hands stay loose, though his eyes narrow, a glint of steel beneath the calm. "Check the passenger list," Damien says, nodding at the tablet under Barlow's arm, its screen glowing faintly. "Or call your team. My name's there, owner and passenger." Barlow's jaw tightens. He reaches for his radio, half turning like Damien's a problem to report. "This is Captain Barlow, Hangar 9, he mutters, voice taut. "Got a situation. Possible unauthorized boarding. Send back up, now." Damien could push back, could demand Barlow check the list. Instead, he pulls out his phone, taps a number, and waits as a woman's voice answers, sharp and no-nonsense. "Yeah?" "Tell your crew the captain here thinks I'm trespassing on my jet," Damien says, a dry smirk in his voice, though that old, familiar weight settles in his chest, the kind that comes from being unseen again. "No kidding," she replies, a laugh hiding in her tone. "He doesn't know who you are?" "Nope," Damien says, watching Barlow pace, radio pressed to his ear, muttering about rules. "And he's not even trying." A black SUV rolls up, security, in bold white letters on the side, tires crunching gravel as it stops. 2 guards step out, uniforms crisp, scanning the scene with bored efficiency. Barlow points at Damien, voice loud and smug. "That's him. Claims he owns the jet, won't show ID. I'm not taking chances, not with this plane." The SUV's engine rumbles low, exhaust mixing with the jet fuel haze. Barlow keeps pointing, his voice rising with a smug edge. "He's refusing to verify," he says, leaning into his story like he's already won. "Says he's the owner. Nonsense. I'm not letting anyone board without proof." The guards don't react immediately. The shorter one, buzz-cut, built solid, squints at Damien, a flicker of recognition crossing his face. He steps closer, gravel crunching under his boots. "Mr. Cole?" he asks, voice cautious. Damien nods casually as if they're meeting over coffee. "Morning," he says, his tone light but heavy with meaning. The taller guard, a scar over his eyebrow, shoots Barlow a look, his body shifting. "Captain," he says, voice flat but sharp, "you might want to call your team. Now." Barlow's confidence cracks. His shades slip, revealing pale blue eyes darting between the guards, Damien and the jet. His hand hesitates over the radio, then presses it slowly, voice dropping to a mumble. "Captain Barlow, Hangar 9. Got a guy here who says he's Damien Cole and claims he owns the jet. Can you confirm?" The silence stretches, the tarmac holding its breath, the jet's hum and a distant gull the only sounds. Damien stands calm, hands in his pockets, watching Barlow sweat. The radio crackles, words too low to hear, but they hit Barlow hard. His shoulders lock, jaw tight, the radio slipping to bang against his thigh. "Yes, sir?" He croaks, eyes on the pavement. "Understood." He looks up at Damien, face flashing red then pale. Damien doesn't move, doesn't speak. Barlow scrambles for words, voice thin. "Must have been a mix-up. My team didn't update me. System error, old passenger list. Rules say I have to verify, standard stuff, you know." "Didn't know I needed clearance," Damien says, each word sharp and clear, "to board what's mine." The shorter guard smirks, and the taller one nods toward the jet's stairs. "All clear, Mr. Cole," he says, voice softening. "Safe trip to Chicago. Sorry for the trouble." A co-pilot steps onto the stairs, mid-30s, tie loose, clipboard in hand. He's been inside, watching through the window as Barlow unraveled. "Sorry about that, Mr. Cole," he says, scratching his neck, voice shaky but genuine. "I was setting up the cabin. Missed the start of it. You flying with us?" "If you're up there flying," Damien says, a trace of warmth in his tone, "then yeah, I'm in." He climbs the stairs, each step steady, the cabin swallowing him in cream leather and polished wood. He drops his bag, rolls up his sleeves, and powers on his tablet. The screens glow, lighting his face as the door seals shut with a clean hiss. But as the jet taxis, a new message pings on his phone. Maxine, his attorney. "Client's threatening to walk if you're not in Chicago by 10. They've got another offer on the table. $50 million more. You've got 2 hours. Damien's jaw tightens. He types back, "Tell them I'm on my way. Stall if you have to." The jet picks up speed, the runway blurring past, but the clock's ticking louder than the engines. The jet climbs smoothly, LA shrinking to a grid of lights below as Damien settles into his seat, the leather creaking softly. He pulls up the deal docs on his tablet, but his mind drifts to 2 months ago in Oakland, a late Thursday night. He'd been on his patio, the bay glittering below, sipping bourbon as the sky turned purple. Another flight, another slight. He'd booked as a client, flying back from Phoenix. The pilot then, wiry with a fake smile, had barely glanced at him, skipping his coffee while serving the white exec 2 rows up. When they landed, the pilot handed the log to Damien's assistant, Tara, like Damien wasn't even there. That night, the dismissal had settled deep, a quiet ache. He'd called Maxine. "Find out who owns Skyleet Charters," he'd said, voice cold. Quietly, "I want it." "Bull buyout or controlling stake?" she'd asked. "Controlling's enough," he'd replied, "for now." 6 weeks later, she'd secured 63% of a struggling company, moving through a shell firm to buy out a desperate board. Damien didn't announce himself. He rewrote their operations, replaced half the leadership, and set new standards, building a system where respect didn't depend on assumptions. That's why today stung. Barlow was a flaw in the system Damien had worked to fix. But mid-flight, a new problem hits. The co-pilot's voice crackles over the intercom, tense. "Mr. Cole, we've got an issue. One of the fuel gauges is showing a drop, faster than it should. I need to check it out." Damien's stomach tightens. "How bad?" "Could be a glitch," the co-pilot says, "but if it's a leak, we might need to divert. I'll know in 10. Damien nods, though the co-pilot can't see it. He pulls up his phone, texting Maxine, "Possible delay, fuel issue, keep the client." Her reply is instant. "They're getting antsy. Hurry." The co-pilot returns, face pale. It's not a glitch. There's a small puncture in the fuel line. Looks deliberate. Someone tampered with it before takeoff. Damien's mind races. Sabotage? He thinks back to the tarmac. Javier, the tarmac worker, had been filming, but there'd been another figure near the jet earlier, a man in a faded orange vest, lingering too long by the fuel hatch. Who had access to the jet before we boarded? Damien asks, voice steady but sharp. The co-pilot hesitates. Ground crew mostly. But there was a guy, ex-employee I think. I saw him hanging around earlier. Name's Carter. He got fired last month after your team took over. Had a history of complaints, the same as Barlow. Word is, he blamed you. Damien's jaw clenches. Can we make it to Chicago? We're losing fuel fast, the co-pilot says. I can get us to Vegas, the closest airport, but we need to land now. Do it, Damien says, his mind already shifting gears. He texts Maxine, diverting to Vegas, emergency landing, get a new jet ready there and find out everything about a guy named Carter, an ex-employee. I think he's behind this. The jet descends, the Vegas Strip coming into view, lights glinting against the desert haze. Damien's deal is hanging by a thread, and now someone's trying to take him down. Literally. The jet lands safely in Vegas, emergency crews on standby as Damien steps onto the tarmac, phone already buzzing. Tara's waiting for a new jet, arranged by Maxine, but the news she brings isn't good. The video from Santa Monica, it's everywhere, she says, heels clicking as she matches his stride. 3 million views, X, TikTok, Insta. People are fired up. Damien takes her tablet, the clip looping, Barlow pointing, Damien unmoving, guards stepping in. X is a storm. Gate kept a jet from its owner, Meow. Representation matters in aviation, white privilege speedrun. But not everyone agrees. Some defend Barlow. He was just doing his job. Why didn't the guy show ID? Others debate. This is why we need better training. Maybe it's not about race. Calm down. Let it run, Damien says, handing the tablet back. They'll figure it out. He boards the new jet, making it to Chicago just in time to seal the deal. $400 million secured. The client impressed by his determination. But back in his penthouse that evening, the sky purple over Lake Michigan, Damien's focus shifts. He sips black coffee. The laptop's glow cutting through the dim room. 3 files. An HR report on past profiling issues. Barlow's apology. I wasn't informed due to a system error, followed protocol. And Maxine's update on Carter. He's a former mechanic, fired for negligence, with a grudge against Damien for the leadership overhaul. Maxine tracked him to a bar in LA, where he'd been bragging about teaching Cole a lesson. Damien doesn't need a scene, but he won't let this slide. He calls Maxine. You've made up your mind, she says, paper shuffling. Yeah, Damien says. Barlow's out, and I want Carter found. Press charges if we can prove he tampered with the jet. Quietly, she asks. Nah, he says. Not after this. If Barlow had done that to a white exec, he'd be gone already. And Carter, he put lives at risk. I'm not letting either slide. Fair, she says. Barlow's termination is effective tonight. Carter's being tracked. Cops are involved. Anything else? New captain by Monday, Damien says. Focus on judgment, not just experience. And update training. Add a section on profiling. Mandatory by next quarter. Done, she says and hangs up. Damien emails ops ceasing Maxine. Captain Barlow's out. Severance if needed. No extras, no return. The new captain was shortlisted by Monday. Update training on profiling, mandatory by Q3. 3 days later, the clip's still alive online, now at 5 million views. Damien's in LA for a follow-up meeting when he's recognized at a downtown coffee shop. A man in his 40s, wearing a faded baseball cap, approaches, voice loud. You're that guy from the jet video, right? The one who got Barlow fired? Damien nods, setting his coffee down. That's me. The man's face hardens. Barlow's my cousin. He was just doing his job, following rules. You didn't have to ruin his life over it. People like you always play the victim, don't you? The shop goes quiet, heads turning. Damien feels the familiar weight, being seen as the problem, not the person wronged. He keeps his voice steady. Your cousin assumed I didn't belong on my jet. He didn't check the list, didn't listen, just judged. That's not doing his job. That's bias. The man steps closer, voice rising. Bias? That's a cop-out. You got him fired because you're rich and you can. You think you're better than us? Damien stands, his height imposing but his tone calm. I think I deserve to be seen for who I am, not what someone assumes I should be. If that's too much for you or Barlow to handle, that's not my problem. A woman at a nearby table chimes in. Voice sharp. He's right. I saw the video. Barlow didn't even try to check. He just assumed. That's not okay. Another customer, an older man, shakes his head. Rules are rules. The guy should have shown ID. End of story. The debate erupts. Voices overlapping, some supporting Damien, others siding with Barlow's cousin. Damien doesn't stay for the argument. He grabs his coffee and walks out, the tension lingering like a storm cloud. But the encounter spreads online, a new clip trending. Jet owner faces off with pilot's family in coffee shop. Back in Chicago, Damien sits in his penthouse, the city humming below. Carter's been arrested. Security footage from Santa Monica caught him tampering with the jet's fuel line, and he's facing charges of sabotage. The coffee shop incident has fueled more debate online, but it's also sparked change. Sky Elite announces new training protocols, and other companies follow suit, citing Damien's story as a wake-up call. Voices slip into Damien's inbox. A baggage handler from Minnesota. I've hauled bags for years, unseen. You made me feel seen. A charter owner in Arizona. You gave me the spine to fire someone today. An anonymous note. I've been told I don't belong. You didn't back down. That's everything. Damien doesn't reply to the noise. This isn't about the jet or the views. It's about the line he drew, the space he claimed. What would you do in his shoes? Drop your thoughts below. Hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that make you think.